Where is she? Not there. Not in heaven. Not perished. Where? Oh, you said she cared nothing for my sufferings. And I pray one prayer. I repeat it till my tongue stiffens. Catherine Earnshaw, may you not rest as long as I am living. You said I killed you. Haunt me then. The murdered do haunt their murderers. I believe, I know that ghosts have wandered on earth. Be with me always. Take any form. Drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you. Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights. You know, it's pretty rare that I pick up a book and I am completely blown away with surprise. Sure, I've been surprised by books, but a lot of times, especially with classics, you kind of think you know what you're walking into. Now, I knew about Charlotte Bronte. I really love Jane Eyre. Great book. And I expected Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights to be more like that. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting a horror story. And it kind of is a horror story, as well as being a lot of other things besides. There's a reason that this book stands out. And it's interesting to me that when you hear this talked about, it is very often as a romance, a doomed romance, the doomed romance between Heathcliff and Catherine on the moors. And there is a doomed romance in this. There's no doubt about that. And it wreaks incredible destruction on people's lives. Because one thing about Heathcliff in this book, he's kind of a monster. And I wasn't expecting Heathcliff to be a monster. But man, he really is. When we first see him, he's brought home by Mr. Earnshaw when Heathcliff is a small child. And he was found on the street, basically. A little strange little child. Something otherworldly about him even then. And as bad luck would have it, Mr. Earnshaw dies, and Heathcliff grows up in love with Catherine. And has to endure some really horrific abuse. It's another thing I wasn't expecting in this book. There are no easy characters in this book. Most, if not all, well, most of the characters in this book are pretty unlikable. Some of the characters in this book are really unlikable. And all the characters are kind of tough. They're kind of tough to kind of wrap your head around. Kind of tough to accept. And Heathcliff, black-hearted bastard, this guy. His one redeeming quality, perhaps, was his love for Catherine. But in his eyes at least, she betrayed him. And he wreaked vengeance on the innocent. He was a hateful, hateful man. And this story, as usual, when I talk about books, I don't want to give away too many plot points, particularly with this one, because it's so different than what I would have expected. I was expected, like I said, dark romance or doomed romance. But this book goes in all kinds of different directions that I just didn't really see coming. It's but without getting too much in on the plot or what happens to the characters. A lot of things happen to the characters in these books. I mean, the people in this book, excuse me, a lot of things happen to the people in this book. They endure a lot. But the thing that struck me about it so much when I read it was just how uncompromising it was, how brave it was. Emily Bronte put out a really adult, serious, complicated book that's full of passion. Now, it is famously full of passion. But it's not just love, it's rage. This book is full of rage. I would say there's probably more rage in this book than love. I was not expecting that. There are supernatural elements in this book. The way it's laid out, you can kind of take it as these supernatural events being real or imagined. When it comes to fiction, unlike in life where I don't believe in anything supernatural, but in fiction, I always err on the side of supernatural. So I'm going to go with supernatural things happening in this book, including a kind of haunting. And certainly, supernatural or not, Heathcliff is haunted by Catherine. He's haunted by his feelings for Catherine. And those feelings twist him. It's just intense. If you haven't been able to figure it out by now, this is an intense book. And it is an incredible work of art. It is a monumental achievement as a novel. There's a reason it's still read by so many people. Misread sometimes. I think there are still some people out there who can read this somehow and romanticize Heathcliff. How you do that? If you think Heathcliff is the man for you, man, therapy, quick, please. Man, no, you don't want that. But it's certainly intense. It is probably one of the best novels I've ever read. It's up there. Just great. It's a horrible tragedy to literature that we lost Emily Bronte so young. That's, after you read this, that fact is tough to take. I love Charlotte. I'm glad we have Charlotte. where we had more from Charlotte. And I love her book, Jane Eyre. Love it. It's one of my favorites. This towers above that. That's no slight to Charlotte at all. But this is something special. But if you haven't read this, now you can walk into it a little more prepared. Be more prepared than I was. I was not prepared for this. And it's amazing. This is an amazing book. Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights. Read it. Read this book. Thank you once again for spending your time with me. And I will see you again. Next time I will be at stately Vaughan Manor. I'll see you then, guys.